Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. Coming week in The Young and the Restless on CBS, the storm over Genoa City doesn't just roar, it explodes with explosive twists, blurred alliances, and secrets that hang to tear families and conglomerates piecemeal, beginning Monday, January 12, 2026, when Victor Newman executes the ultimate treason that leaves indeed his fiercest rival blinking in unbelief. In a deft move that shocks the Abbott camp and sends shock swells through Newman Enterprises, Victor double-crosses Jack Abbott, turning what was supposed to be a strategic advantage into a humiliating reversal for Jack and his abettors, and proving formally again why Victor's name inspires fear and respect in equal measure. While away, Kane Ashby stages a jaw-dropping surprise that leaves Phyllis Summers reeling. Is it a triumphant gesture, or a portent of darker intentions? And Nikki Newman, in no way one to suffer fools, eventually confronts an adversary who has been lurking in the murk, setting off a battle that will leave observers perched on the edge of their seats as long-buried truths begin to surface. By Tuesday, January 13th, the fallout from Victor's business tightens like a mesh around Kane, as Victor designedly backs Kane into a corner, leaving him no choice but to fight with every ounce of cunning he can muster. At Newman Enterprises, the pressure between heritage and survival spirals out of control, and Victoria Newman and Adam Newman are left scrambling to do damage control, doctoring up cracks in the family's commercial facade long enough to buy themselves time. Indeed, Diane Jenkins delivers a claim to Jack that sounds more like a decree than a request. A stark memorial that in Genoa City, love and fidelity are goods that can be traded for political advantage. As the week reaches Wednesday, January 14th, the drama becomes indeed more particular and incontrovertibly combustive. Victor and Nikki find themselves in a heated argument about family business that blurs the line between particular pain and professional strategy, exposing vulnerabilities that could be exploited by their adversaries and loved ones. Likewise, Nick Newman, scuffling with his own inner fermentation, makes a bold decision to take matters into his own hands. Whether that choice will bring redemption or ruin is anyone's conjecture, and Sharon Newman, ever the steady heart in the chaos, weighs in to help Tessa Porter as she agonizes over an unbearably delicate decision, a choice that will review her future and leave suckers mooting the possibilities long after the credits roll. Also comes Thursday, January 15th, a day where secrets explode into the open. Sally Spectra, having watched dishonesty and deception pull her world off its axis, forces Billy Abbott to come clean about the trueness he's tried to hide from everyone around him. Her resoluteness isn't just bold, it's transformational, and it begs the question of whether Billy has the courage to face the consequences of his honest concession. Meanwhile, Phyllis Summers, known for her fierce tenacity, steps up to defend her conduct with a fiery intensity, reminding everyone that when pushed, she can be as redoubtable as any Newman or Abbott. And Nick, floundering with the weight of knowledge that could shatter more than one life, finds himself in a precarious position as he keeps a secret from Sharon, a choice that could either cover the bones he loves most or becomes the catalyst for their topmost heartache. Eventually, on Friday, January 16th, the explosive week climaxes with moments that will impend large in Genoa City lore. Nick, still bombarded from the week's emotional and physical trials, turns to Jack Abbott for help in a hopeless scheme that reveals just how much he's willing to risk, and who he's truly willing to trust, when everything he cares about is on the line. Noah Newman, no foreigner to Bouleversement in his youthful life, makes a shocking discovery about Matt Clark that could upend times of hypotheticals and thrust the Newman family into a new extremity that no bone saw coming. And Diane Jenkins, unyielding and incisive, grills Michael Baldwin for intel about Victor, seeking the key that might eventually unleash his strategy and turn the runs formerly and for all. Indeed, if doing so means walking a razor's edge where particular battles and painful histories cross in changeable ways. Across the entire week, every character, from the power empty to the still hopeless, finds themselves tested, betrayed, forced into alliances they in no way envisaged, or pushed to the point of choices that will shape Genoa City's emotional geography for months to come. Nick's struggle to balance fidelity, love, and verity becomes the emotional backbone that ties together every battle, secret, and disclosure, while Victor's grim pursuit of control continues to insulate him from those he formerly counted as abettors and family. Jack's response to treason isn't polite restraint, it's fire and strategy, a testament to his adaptability and his amenability to go toe-to-toe with a man like Victor. Indeed, when the odds are piled against him, Nikki, once the loving heart of the Newman dynasty, becomes a legionnaire in her own right, defying pitfalls with an intensity that reminds everyone why she's one of the most continuing numbers in Genoa City history. Also, there's Sharon and Tessa, whose emotional trip together adds depth to the week's unfolding drama. Sharon, navigating her own pain and seeking to be a lamp for others even when her strength is waning, becomes Tessa's anchor as the youngish woman faces a crossroads that could define her path. An important narrative about choice, consequence, and adaptability. Sally and Billy's plot brings a mortal element that cuts through the commercial warfare and family politics, laying bare the raw vulnerabilities that come with verity and conciliation. And through Noah's eyes, the followership is reminded that indeed the youthful among them carries the weight of heritage, memory, and the eventuality for unlooked-for impact. His shocking discovery about Matt Clark isn't just a plot twist. It's the catalyst for a new chapter of questions about identity, history, and what it means to be family in a city where history's secrets come to a moment's reality. With every twist, the people of Genoa City find themselves entangled in a web where fidelity is fragile, power is unpredictable, and love can be both a fort and a vulnerability. The Newman Abbott contest, formerly fabulous, takes on indeed lesser significance as backstabbings and countermoves escalate, while Diane Jenkins' grim pursuit of clarity, justice, and advantage continues to bring her into conflict, and occasionally unanticipated alignment with others who also have further to lose than they want to admit. These occurrences promise not only surprising turns and shocking reveals, but also a deeply emotional and character-driven lyre that puts every decision, every battle, and every secret on the line. By the time Friday's final moments fade to black, spectators will have witnessed a week that redefines power, tests connections past their breaking points, and reconfigures alliances in ways that no one could have anticipated at the launch of Monday's stormy opening act. The week of January 12 to 16, 2026, on The Young and the Restless isn't just another chapter in Genoa City history. It's a dramatic plot that will be talked about by suckers long after the week ends, a masterclass in cleanser pieces pressure where every twist reverberates with the emotional impact and narrative weight that has made the series a daytime legend. The storm that tore through Genoa City during the week of treason, secrets, and shattered commitment didn't fade with the weekend. It grew darker, heavier, and more dangerous, as the consequences of Victor Newman's ruthless pushes and Nick's buried trueness began to spiral beyond anyone's control. And on Monday morning the megacity woke not to peace, but to the echo of undetermined wars, stewing vendettas, and connections hanging by a single fragile thread. At Newman Enterprises, Victor stood alone in his office, the skyline stretching behind him like an area he'd conquered but could no way truly rest in. His eyes cold with satisfaction yet shadowed by a rare flicker of apprehension, because indeed the great Victor Newman knew that treason always carried a price, and Jack Abbott, wounded, lowered, and furious, wasn't a man who accepted defeat still. Across the city at Jabot, Jack slammed his fist onto his office, the sound resonating through the office like a projectile, his jaw gripped as recollections of Victor's deception replayed in his mind, not as remorse but as energy, because this time the contest was no longer about business alone. It was particular, and Jack was prepared to scorch the earth to reclaim his power. Meanwhile, Nick Newman wandered the quiet thoroughfares in the early hours, burdened by a secret that pressed on his chest like a weight too heavy to carry, knowing that every step he took away from Sharon was another step toward a verity that could destroy the fragile peace he'd worked so hard to make. Yet he couldn't turn back because some trueness, formerly discovered, refused to stay buried. At the Newman estate, Nikki paced the living room, her feelings swinging between wrathfulness and fear, her battle with Victor still burning in her mind like an open crack, because she had seen a commodity in his eyes that alarmed her. Not confidence, not control but despair, the kind that made men reckless, the kind that tore families piecemeal. And when Victor eventually descended the staircase, their silence spoke louder than any argument, a battleground pause before the coming explosion. "You're pushing everyone down," Nikki said, her voice pulsing with both love and warning, but Victor simply uncurled his jacket, his expression hardening into the mask that had defended him for decades, because to him vulnerability was weakness, and weakness was a commodity he couldn't go without. Not now. Not with adversaries circling and secrets hanging to face. Across the city, Sharon sat beside Tessa, offering quiet comfort as the youngish woman goggled into the distance, her heart heavy with the weight of a decision that could alter her future forever, because love in Genoa City was no way simple. It was a battleground of its own, where choices came with scars and pledges frequently ended in pain. Sharon's gentle words carried wisdom born from times of heartache, reminding Tessa that courage didn't mean certainty, only the amenability to face whatever came next. Indeed, if it shattered everything she allowed. She wanted. At Crimson Lights, Sally Spectra brazened Billy Abbott more formally, her eyes blazing with frustration and resoluteness, because she was done with half-truth, done with secrets, and done with being kept in the dark while chaos consumed everyone around her. And Billy, visited by guilt and prostration, eventually began to crack, admitting that his miscalculations were no longer just his own, they were pulling others down with him, and the consummation hit him harder than any punch ever could. "You don't get to cover people by lying to them," Sally snapped, her voice cutting through his defenses like a blade. And in that moment Billy realized that the woman standing in front of him was no longer asking for honesty. She was demanding it, because falsehoods had brought them too important formerly. Away, Diane Jenkins moved through Genoa City with purpose, her sharp eyes and sharper instincts locked on one thing: Victor Newman's downfall, and every discussion, every calculated smile, and every rumored exchange with Michael Baldwin brought her one step closer to the verity she believed could eventually cock the balance of power, because Diane had learned long ago that in this city, knowledge was the deadliest armament of all. As the day unfolded, Nick set himself up standing outdoors Jack Abbott's office formerly again, the weight of his choices heavy on his shoulders, knowing that asking Jack for help meant crossing lines that could in no way be uncrossed, but despair left him no volition, because the secret he carried wasn't just dangerous, it was explosive, able to tear piecemeal families, alliances, and everything he'd fought to cover. And when Jack eventually opened the door, the pressure between them was thick, enough to suffocate. Yet beneath it palpitated a participated understanding that some battles needed doubtful allies. "However, it means the commodity's gone terribly wrong," Jack said still. "If you're there." Meanwhile, Noah Newman's shocking discovery about Matt Clark began to unravel like a thread pulled from a fragile shade, revealing layers of deception that stretched further back than anyone had imagined. And as Noah pieced together the truth, the consummation transferred a bite through his entire body. Because what he'd uncovered wasn't just a secret, it was a treason that rewrote the history of people he trusted, forcing him to question everything he allowed. He knew about fidelity, family, and identity. His hands shook as he goggled at the substantiation, knowing that formerly this verity was spoken. There would be no going back, no way to undo the damage it would beget, yet keeping silent felt like a treason of its own. Back at Newman Enterprises, Victoria and Adam plotted to contain the fallout of their father's ruthless strategies, scrabbling to stabilize a company teetering on the edge of chaos, because Victor's war with Jack was no longer confined to boardrooms and contracts. It was bleeding into every corner of their lives, poisoning connections and hanging the very foundation of the Newman heritage. And as siblings disagreed over what path to take, it became sorrowfully clear that the family they fought so hard to cover was sluggishly fracturing under the weight of their father's grim ambition. "He doesn't care who gets hurt," Adam murmured, his voice thick with resentment, while Victoria gripped her jaw, torn between fidelity to her father and the fear that his conduct was dragging them all toward destruction. As night fell over Genoa City, the emotional foreshocks of the week continued to ripple outward, touching every life in their path, because in this city, drama never slept. It awaited, coddled, and struck when hearts were most vulnerable. Sharon watched the stars through her window, wondering how numerous further storms her family could survive, while Nikki sat alone in the Newman estate, gaping at a print of better days, quietly mourning the distance that had grown between her and the man she formerly believed she knew. At Jabot, Jack poured himself a drink, the bitterness of it matching the fire in his casket, because Victor Newman may have won the rearmost battle, but the war was far from over, and this time, Jack intended to strike back harder than ever ahead. In the murk, Diane Jenkins made her coming move, her confidence fueled by the knowledge that secrets always surfaced, and when they did, they had the power to bring indeed the potent conglomerates to their knees. Nick goggled at his phone, his thumb swimming over Sharon's name, knowing that one call, one concession could change everything, yet fear held him firmly in place, because verity was a double-edged brand, and he wasn't sure who would bleed further, himself, Sharon, or the family caught in the crossfire. Noah closed his eyes, steeling himself for the battle ahead, because the verity he carried demanded to be heard, no matter how devastating the fallout. And nearly in the heart of Genoa City, Victor Newman stood altitudinous, surveying the conglomerate he'd erected through strength, immolation, and ruthless determination, ignorant that the very secrets he'd buried and the very people he'd pushed away were now gathering in the murk, ready to challenge his reign in ways he no way saw coming, because in this city power was no way endless, fidelity was no way guaranteed, and every palm carried the seed of the coming great downfall.